Hello and welcome to the Psychic Stories podcast, encouraging conversations about mental health. Today I'm speaking to Michael Simon. Michael is the founder of the Men Toolbox, which is due to be launched in early 2021. The Men Toolbox is a quarterly subscription box service specially designed for men's well-being. Michael, hello.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Just, sipping on my hot drink.
Sipping on a hot drink in the cold weather.
Yeah. It's definitely cold, man. It's definitely cold. But
Awesome.
I'm good. Yeah.
So the goal of this is to have an open and honest conversation about your mental health journey, to get some insight into the tools and techniques that have helped you and are available and accessible to other people. And we think by discussing your journey, we hope to share a normalized conversation about mental health, as often people are not alone in these experiences. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, like I do, I hand over to you. Please tell us about your mental health journey.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite broad.
It's a big, broad question.
Yeah. Okay, I will start with what, for me, I've realized a bit more this weekend. And I've started to, I guess, creatively jot down and pinpoint where I feel my mental health had started being challenged. And I feel that I've, for the first iteration anyway, I've acknowledged that it's back to like 2011. I've got like a board with some dates on it. 2011, and I feel for me that was a very transitional moment. I'm a dancer. So at that point I was in LA for a period of time, training. Amazing, something I always wanted to do. And then I was there for about 6 weeks, nearly 2 months, and I came back and I started speaking to someone. I met my then partner. And I feel for me, that was a point where a lot of things happened from that point on, with regards to the relationship and me just realizing certain things myself, or even not realizing certain things, to be honest, where I can pinpoint to a lot of pressures and challenges mentally that were not exposed to me until more recently that I've realized. So yeah, I would say that, generally when people ask me, how you doing, Michael? I'm having a conversation, I think our default response is, I'm fine. Yeah. And then depending on who you're speaking to, you may divulge into more personal information or more specific details. But yeah, I would say generally, especially during this time, during 2020, which has been crazy for a lot of people, my mental health, mental well-being has definitely been challenged even more. And I feel that previous wounds have been reopened for me to navigate them and to truly identify the healing process in them. I feel that, we can go through things in life and we can identify them and be like, yeah, I've gone over that hard time. That was a challenging time. I'm healed from that process, which is great. No denying that probably is the case. However, I think the real challenge and the real identifier of whether you have healed or overcome that is being presented with the same or a similar challenge and seeing how you deal with that in that moment. And I've come to realize that, okay, whilst I may have healed from certain things, I'm in a new relationship now, and it's like things are coming up. It's like, hold on a minute.
It's the same stuff.
That's it's not even that it's the same stuff that I'm experiencing, because my partner is completely different.
But it's the same reaction.
But it's the same. Yeah, I'm noticing that I'm reacting in a similar way, and I'm trying to be like, okay, so why am I reacting? Because this is a different setup, but yet those feelings are still true.
Yeah.
Those feelings come up, and that defense mechanism still happens, and mentally, I would say I'm definitely much more conscious, and I'm not speaking about it from like a spiritual sort of perspective. I'm consciousness and unconsciousness, but generally I'm just a bit more aware and open to tapping into those things, those whys, those reasons behind why I have anxiety, why I felt I had to relearn how to breathe due to panic attacks, why my eyes twitching, which is for me is an identifier of being stressed. Like, why am I stressed about certain things? I've had to really unpack what's going on with me, focus put a refocus back on sort of any traumatic events and be real. Like, you know, things have happened that have affected me. And, you know, years ago, I wasn't able to articulate myself emotionally, which I think a lot of men maybe are challenged with, like being able to feel comfortable and in a safe space to say, look, I'm feeling this way, you know, this has really upset me, you know, I'm hurt or for whatever reason. So I definitely feel that I've grown and I'm still growing, and navigating my mental health and being aware that I need to take care of myself.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it seems as well, like from, I think when you started, you were like, the default reaction for, you know, for us guys often is, yeah, I'm fine. And actually it still is like, no matter how much I'm involved in sidekick and mental health and doing this podcast, someone asks me, how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah. It's normal. It's a normal response.
But often I'm not. Like, and I think, like you said, from your perspective, it'd be interesting to hear from, so up until that point, so what, like 8-9 years ago, you're dancing over in LA. Now, I assume like that dancing, very competitive, like very expressive at the same time, but also very competitive, must come with its challenges in terms of like getting gigs, getting jobs, that kind of thing, which must have a, you know, it is a hard lifestyle to live, right?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is.
So how come if you don't mind me asking, how come up until that point were you deem yourself okay? And then after that, that's when you said, that's when your journey really started? Or was it that you recognize actually that something needs to change?
For me, so I graduated from uni in 2010. So for that year after, it was me trying to figure out what the hell I want to do with my life, right?
So it's all about that big life transition.
Yeah, it was a transition. Yeah. So I'd made the decision. I'd previously gone to LA in 2009 during university. I wanted to drop out of uni because I was like, forget this education thing. I want to dance. You know, there was a lot of there was a rising of like what we call hip hop dance theater. So there was a lot of like dance companies like Zoo Nation and Boy Blue doing a lot of things within the theater. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
As well as that, there was a lot of commercial dancing. So in terms of backing dancing for artists, etc. So I was like, I want to be involved in that. I was looking at an internship in America so that I can try and do both. So I can study, do my final week, my third year, and dance. But that never really happened. So when I graduated in 2010, it was kind of like, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to pursue the corporate world, or do I want to be expressive and dance? And I chose to go down the more creative route while still sustaining myself financially with like a part-time job.
But that's it, because it's a hard decision. But back when you were studying, what were you studying?
Business management.
So business management, so nothing to do with dance, right?
Nah,
so you've got these two sides to you, and you get to that, and I think it's an important thing to say. Like, you get to these crucial life decisions where, frankly, education is supposed to prepare you to make these decisions. But often we get to the end of our 3rd or 4th years at university, or further education, or vocational education, whatever it is, or end of school, and you still are presented with this cliff, and you're like, I still don't know what path I'm going to do. So you take a punt, don't you? And your punt was to go down that creative route.
Exactly. You know, and I'm glad I did. I'm definitely glad I did. I don't feel I have any regrets with regards to it. However, I feel some of the quote unquote regrets or wish, you know, shoulda, woulda, couldas came after. Based on some of the choices and events that took place in my life thereafter. But yeah, it definitely was that transitional moment. But I didn't, you know, again, it's hindsight is a great thing, because it's only in looking back that I'm able to now pinpoint and kind of checkpoint some of those areas and be like, okay, damn, that is when this happened and I felt this way, and that may be a reason why I'm feeling like this, or have been feeling like this recently, you know? So yeah, I graduated uni 2010. I did various jobs. I mean, my CV was extensive by the time, like within 5 years. So, you know, I did charity work, you know, I was on the street kind of, you know, trying to get people to sign up to multiple different charities. I worked in retail. And it was all, to be fair, all of it was a hustle just to get money so that I
Yeah.
could actually transition to go to LA for the period of time I
And
wanted to.
that's quite common for
Yeah.
dancers, for actors. That's, you know, that kind of that hustle is important to be able to sustain the creative elements, which is notoriously very difficult to be paid for.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, promotional activity. You know, I signed up to a lot of promo jobs, which was just random. You know, like handing out bottles of drink at a train station to, you know, doing sort of big national. You know, I remember I worked. I think it was like one of the Euro football sort of gigs, and I was driving. I drove to Scotland in a brand new Hyundai, and just like sort of doing promotional activity, you know, in different areas. So I did loads of different jobs, but I was never satisfied. So the money was coming in, but I was like, this is not what I want to do. I don't feel happy. You know, I'm living with my parents, which is cool, but that transition alone from 3 years of kind of being independent to then moving back in with your family whilst trying to figure out yourself financially and, you know, do what you want to do, travel. You know, I traveled a lot to America. Yeah, it was a lot, and with no one sort of guiding me, you know, or no sort of heads up, you know, in terms of, you think that you're going to get your degree and that you'll be able to get your job, and then that will be okay. But then you realize that it's not as simple as that. You know, you kind of, you know, those that are a bit more successful go on to do further placement years after they've graduated and internships further on down the line. And, you know, a lot of people don't find themselves within the sector, within the industry that they actually studied for, you know? So, yeah, there was a lot of transition there. And then I said to myself, you know what? I remember I was working in a charity job, and I said to myself, this is it. I'm going to LA for a bit. I was already training because I've been dancing since I was 11. So I was already training here, different dance companies, different experiences. But I said to myself, I'm going to LA for 6 weeks or 2 months, I think it was. And there was a group of us going, got my money together, pretty much all funded by myself because I was just saving. I didn't, you know, I was young. I didn't have any expenses. I'm living at home.
Yeah.
Saved up, and I went, and I said to myself, once I come back from LA, I'm going to pursue dance full time. And I did that. But as I did that, a whole load of other stuff came up, you know. I met someone in a relationship, and that was come to realize it was a very toxic relationship. You know, I realized a lot from that moving forward. Yeah, various things, you know, experiencing an abortion, you know, in that time.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, I mean, things happen, you know, and it's, for me, I feel that only probably in the last 2 years or so, I've actually realized how much of an effect that moment in particular had on me. And I've never heard any other man sort of speak about it.
Yeah, because I mean, through that process, I mean, obviously hugely traumatic from a female perspective. And by the same time, going through it, like, the man is not devoid of feeling, like they're still going through some process. It'd be interesting to hear from your perspective what that was like. How did you process it? What came up?
I mean, I don't even know if I did process it, to be fair. You know, that's at that time. I think maybe what was different in terms of the narrative of other men experiencing that is that sometimes they're probably quite detached from the person they're with, or that they're experiencing that situation with. So they may be like, well, you know, I don't care, sort of thing anyway. With me, we was actually in the beginnings of the relationship. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't like that person was just sort of, you know, an accident or, you know, a one night stand, or like we was in a relationship, but the very, very, very beginning stages. And for that to be my first experience of potential fatherhood, that's, you know, when I unpack that, it's like, well, okay, hold on a minute.
There's a lot going on there.
That's a lot going on, because it was literally like how I felt. And I remember being told, because she wasn't even in the country when she told me, she was in a different country. And I wrote down my feelings in a journal. And it was literally like my life just completely changed, because at that moment, I felt like I had no control over anything. You know, obviously we're all adults. We know how children are made, right? So that act that taken place, and as a result of that, my partner at the time was pregnant, and it was kind of like, in my mind, I'm like, well, I got to stand up to the podium and take the responsibility of being a father, right? That's the right thing to do. That's how I've been raised and encouraged. Like, that's what you do. But then on the other side, I'm like, hold on a minute, I've just graduated. I don't know what the hell I'm doing in my life. I haven't got a proper career. I'm a dancer. I have no continuous income, but yet I'm potentially going to be a father. Like, okay, cool, let's go. Like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, let's go. I'll make it work. Come to realize now that level of stress that I put on myself had such a detrimental effect, coupled with the fact that obviously she didn't keep the child. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, there's nothing I can do, because physically, this is your choice. Whether I'm whether I'm agreeing with it or disagreeing with it is ultimately the woman's choice in that aspect, in terms of taking the next steps, whatever that, to continue with the pregnancy or to not continue with the pregnancy. And yeah, it's a very, very delicate subject. And this is the first, I mean, this is, you know, me speaking about it openly for whomever to listen to, and this is the first time I ever done it.
Thank you for talking about it, because I think, I mean, there are, you know, we've all got friends, and, you know, and like you said, you know, people we speak to who it's happened to, and it's often when it goes through, you can often, you know, say, look, I'm so sorry you've gone through that, but that's basically where it stops, right? You know, I think it's important to kind of unpack these thoughts from a female, but also from a male perspective. The male perspective often isn't talked about, just to kind of understand, is okay, like, because I expect it's some similarities to a grieving process.
It was, and I'm talking about, I was supportive, as in I was there, you know, even supportive at the clinic, you know, on the actual day of, you know, and that was just like, hold on a minute, like, this is mad. Like, how am I in this situation? This is crazy. You know, I barely even know, you know, my then partner. And yet we found ourselves in such a situation. And I just, it hurt. I'm not going to lie, it hurt, because I felt like I had no control. I felt like all levels of control was literally stripped from me. And yes, obviously, I made choices to get me into that position, or to get us into that position, right? But I think there was a bit of naivety with myself. There was also, I just wasn't expressive. I wasn't able to express. You know, who do I speak to? Do I speak to my partner? I barely know her. You know, I can't even express the emotion that I'm going through. Do I speak to my male friends? You know, what would they say? You know, it was a lot. And then obviously, then we continued the relationship. You know, so it's not like this happened and then that's the end of the line. No, we continued the relationship, so that was still there. It was still very much prominent that, you know, in the relationship. You know, it's not something that I was able to sever away from and sort of deal with in my own time. That was festering underneath whilst trying to develop the relationship.
And that's really hard, isn't it? Because, like you said, you're a few months in, and this, you know, like you said, this event, and then this tragic event, you know, had happened. The traumatic event had happened, and then building a relationship on that, like, I mean, that, you know, having abortion, you know, would put a couple who's been in a relationship for 5-6 years under a lot of pressure. You know, and it's, you know, like you said, in terms of processing it, you know, you've got to have some very, very kind of like open, honest, raw conversations to really kind of move past that. And it's, you know, it sounds like you said, from your perspective, like there comes some toxicity in a relationship, like underpinned by some of these kind of big events, and trauma might have, you know, like ultimately made it really, really difficult for you both.
Yeah, for us both. You know, I mean, it's definitely not a one-sided thing or a woe is me. You know, it's never
is
that.
Is it?
It's never that. But you know, I think it's just the acknowledgement of what was going on. The choices that I made in that setup. you know, and it was a long relationship, you know. Out of that, I did have a child with this woman later on down the line. And on top of that, she already had a child from a previous relationship. So I've gone into this essentially becoming a stepfather. Although that wasn't sort of solidified at those very early stages, but that's kind of the narrative that was starting to build. And then to, you know, get her pregnant, and then for that abortion, it was just kind of like, whoa, like, so this leaves me kind of a level of displacement. I didn't kind of, you know, I felt like I had to step up to the plate to become, or to be this sort of stepfather figure. But yet the possibility of having a child at that point with that with her was no longer existent. Do you know what I mean? And then later on down the line, we did have a child together. And then that whole dynamic changed, because then I was like a stepfather to, like, you know, a young, like, I mean, she was only like 2, and then I've got my son that came on board. So many things, you know.
So many things going on.
So like, many things.
And you're still young, and you're still young, right?
Yeah, I was, I mean, 20 something, 23, 24.
And that's hard, like you said, without necessary guidance. Like, did you find guidance from anywhere, from family, from friends, or
had support? Definitely had support, but I mean, in terms of the abortion, people didn't know, you know, so I didn't express that. Maybe to a few of my friends. Some of my friends were just like, "Bro, you need to get out, just get out of that situation." And I'm like, look, I didn't, obviously. But in terms of like family and sort of maybe someone a bit older to, you know, support in terms of navigating the situation, no, it was very much sort of like, I kept my mouth shut, kept it moving, you know, which was not the best thing to do. But there was just so many things going on. I was still trying to figure out myself, you know. So at that point, so 2011, going into the beginning of 2012, like 2012 is when I started I would quote, you know, say I started my professional dance career. So there was a lot of things happening. Like, you know, I was traveling different countries, you know, like dancing for different artists, you know. I was in Germany, and again, obviously in the beginnings of a relationship, and to be, you know, the dance industry, there's a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of men and women, you know, and it's quite social, you know. So in some cases, you know, on either perspective, the man or the woman, if they're not used to that particular industry and that lifestyle, there may be a bit of jealousy or, you know, uncertainty there. Like, you know, my partner's in a different country and there's this and this, you know. So I think those certain things started to become apparent as well. And I just didn't know how to deal with that, you know, because it was, as much as me, I'm trying to figure out my life and my chosen career path at that time. I've got a new relationship, you know, we've got a household that we're essentially building. It was a whirlwind, you know, and that, you know, unfortunately, that sort of professional in the commercial realm route was cut short, because literally at the end of 2012, and I'm talking about, you know, dancing with artists, I did the Olympics opening ceremony, all these great things in 2012, and then the end of 2012, I got injured. And I wasn't even dancing. You know, I fell down the stairs and I messed up my ankle. And that was, I would say, that probably was checkpoint number 2 of that other hit on my mental well-being, where it's like, okay, I've just, you know, 2011, I said, I'm going to invest in taking the next step further. I've done that, and now it's been cut short because physically I can no longer dance. I was in a walker boot for like several months, and the specialist, I got kind of like fast tracked to see a specialist, and they essentially was like, and I remember because I did an Instagram post about it, and the specialist was essentially like, yeah, you might not be able to dance again. So again, that feeling of something being taken away from you and you have no control over it, that was like hit number 2. And it was like, okay, so how do I deal with this one now? And again, I didn't really navigate it properly then. I just kind of try to do what I could do physically, get myself on the mend, but everything around me changed. Relationship wise, my job, you know, I had to go back into doing these random jobs, like these but this time call center based, because I couldn't stand on my feet. So a lot of these call center jobs, selling random magazines to people, you know, being fired from a job because I wasn't meeting the KPIs. Literally, I was there for like a week, and I'm like, yeah, you're fired because you're not meeting the KPIs. Again, another sort of little hit, feeling less of a man because I'm not able to now financially support my family because I've been fired from a job.
And it's interesting what you say about that, like feeling less of a man. Like,
yeah,
a lot of those like thoughts and like expectations, like, you know, we all have expectations what we are in our lives, maybe being a man, being a woman. Like, for you, what did it mean to be a man? So, like, you know, being the breadwinner for your family.
Yeah, I felt, in terms of directly responding to that question, at that point, I don't think I would have been able to identify what I thought a man was be. But what I had seen and felt was right to be doing was that a man should be providing. A man should be strong in some sense of his being, you know, even down to a physical perspective, which I did not feel, because I've always been very slim. I'm 5'8", you know, like, and I'm a dancer. So like, I was more so extremely active. Then, you know, and the dance industry is cutthroat, man. Like, you're going into a room with loads of different people, and it's separated by gender most of the time. So you're matched up against other men, other guys. And, you know, I remember going for certain castings, and getting quite far to the end, and it literally coming down to the wire. And it would be because, you know, you haven't got the job because you're just a bit too short. So my ability is good, but I'm too short.
Which is out of your control.
Yeah, it's like, I can't make myself taller, you know, or, you know, you're not big enough in terms of like muscular, or you're too dark. Like, whilst it may not be, you know, overtly said, but in some cases, I feel my experience, you know, some of the experiences has been kind of like, you need your opposites. So obviously you have like in terms of placement, in terms of like, you know, positionings for dancers or whatever, you have your opposites. So in some cases it's like, well, you don't have an opposite, so we can't kind of take you on board. And then the women, that's a whole nother ball game, because they get cut down, like, literally, like, you know, your physique is not good enough, and
it's
this
brutal.
and that.
It sounds
it's like,
brutal.
for women, it's just even more like, you know, it's crazy. They have kind of, in some cases, have to show, you know, be quite revealing in their nature. Obviously it's a choice, but in some cases that's what it is. So kind of going back in terms of what I thought a man, or probably thought a man was to be, was definitely to provide, hold down the house, bring in the money, you know, like, that's definitely, you know, something. And show that resilience. Like, I never saw the emotional aspect of anything. Like, my dad's around, you know, my parents are like, you know, together. So my dad's always been around. But in terms of the emotional capacity, I would go to my mum, you know, to have a conversation when I felt comfortable to be a bit more open, which has only happened again in the last 8 years or so, you know, where as I started to develop my emotional language and be open and be honest, you know.
Do you think you could approach your dad now?
Much more now, because he's been extremely supportive in terms of some of the things that I've gone through, experienced in the last couple of years. So definitely, like, much more now. But I think at that time, no. Like,
do you think as well, going back what you were saying about the, you know, the kind of the expectations you've put, you know, what you feel it's like to be a man, do you think that's valid now? Like, do you think having the sole expectation of a man to be provided for a family, do you feel that's right now? Not from your perspective, but just generally, like, do you feel that it crowds out perhaps potentially the space for your partner, may that be male or female, to participate in that and to share in the responsibility of being being joint breadwinners? And, you know, what's your feeling now, having gone through that? Have your expectations changed?
I would say that the pressure I put on myself is changing. I would definitely say that. Because I was very much just driven, kind of like blinkered, like, get this money, work, almost kind of materialistic from the perspective of like, I need to have this to show my worth, because I didn't really understand my worth outside of that. I didn't feel comfortable or confident or strong outside of what I thought a man should have, especially a man that's having and raising a family with a partner and, rent to pay and all these kind of things. So I would say that my mindset is definitely changing. Whether I feel that there's a space for that, I think it's very dependent on the dynamic of the individuals in the relationship. I feel that for me personally, with my current partner, like, we are so open with our communication and like have an understanding, and she's like extremely reassuring, especially during this time where I'm starting to unpack a lot of the traumatic sort of things I've experienced, and realizing that she's being supportive in terms of reassuring that, like, yeah, you ain't got to worry about that. Like, that's the past, and the past no longer serves you. So what you're doing in the now, in the current situation, you can't be a prisoner to your mind of the past. So whether there's, I feel that, I think certain things are maybe inherent within men, where we want to feel that we can have that confidence and be able to provide in a certain way, but not not to our detriment, to the point where we're either excluding our partner from, if they're willing to have things balanced out, or to the point of stressing ourselves out, like we must and have to do it all by ourselves, for that to be the identifier of our manhood, of our masculinity, because it's not.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. Like, it doesn't have to be like and it's funny, like when these expectations of being a man or being a woman, or within relationships, or within kind of how you stand in society, it doesn't. I don't know where they come from. Like, obviously it's come from, I assume, from observation, and we've started to learn it, but it's not stuff you've really talked about. Like, there's always just been this underlying assumption that you will provide. You'll be the one to do that. You'll be strong. You'll be perhaps unemotional as a result of being strong, physically strong as well. It always goes to it as well. Like, but I think as well that a lot of the way that we live, the fact that, we're going, we're spending a lot of time on our bodies in the gym, whatever it is, I think a lot of it reinforces these kinds of stereotypes at the same time. And it's weird, like we kind of stereotype ourselves without really thinking or really accepting and saying, actually, perhaps there is a different way. And if there is, and you're in a relationship where both of you want to contribute, and then there wants to be some element of shared responsibility, then it's almost like we're not that prepared to deal with those conversations or the feelings that come up with that, because, like you said, it's tied to your self-worth. If suddenly you share responsibility for bringing in money into the household, how do you deal with the fact that you may feel less of a man?
Yeah, exactly.
Quote unquote. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, where you've identified that. It's like when I got fired from that. I mean, it was a little petty job anyway, but nonetheless, it was bringing in the.
No one likes being fired.
And I'd never been fired. That was the first and only time I had been fired.
It's a rejection.
Yeah, and I was just like, hold on a minute. Like, I've got a degree. I think I'm quite, intelligent. I can do things. I can get a job, and here I am selling magazines. Like the magazines were like like fish. I don't know what you call people that like fishing. People that like
anglers, I think.
Anglers. Yeah.
Nothing to do with fishermen, fisherwomen.
Yeah.
Angler.
Yeah. Like I was selling magazines, and it was just like, hold on a minute, how did I get fired from this job? Like, it's crazy. And I remember coming home. and opening the door. My then partner was like, "You're home early." I'm like, "Yeah."
It's a bad conversation, isn't it?
I got fired. She's like, "Oh." I'm like, yeah, I felt like rubbish. I can't lie.
But that's the thing. Like, and turning it around. Like, if I was to put a mirror in front of you, do you think you deserve to get fired? Being honest with yourself, or do you think, actually, no, I don't?
I mean, based on the fact that I wasn't hitting the KPIs, I mean, it's bums on seats, isn't it, in that sort of industry? So if you're not hitting the numbers, you're not you know, you're not useful. So from that perspective, yes. But in terms of my determination and my zeal to make something work and to make this job work, no, I don't think I should have got fired, because I was ready. You know, I was going for, you know, I was dealing with the challenges. I was calling people, the rejection, time after time. No, I don't want this magazine. No, call me back later. How did you get my number? I was still going. Yeah.
But that's important sometimes. Just hold that mirror up to yourself and say, look, did I deserve this? Or not deserve it, am I accountable for it? Did my actions lead to this event? And sometimes you may agree, sometimes you may disagree. But I think the process of looking at yourself in the mirror and going, I'm accountable for my actions, I'm responsible.
Yeah.
Did this happen as a consequence of my actions?
Yeah, I feel for me, definitely in the beginning stages, obviously, because I, you know, timeline wise, got injured and was kind of like, why me? You know, and I've got people giving me their opinions, even like my partner's side of the family giving their opinions, which I didn't want to hear. And I mean, to this day, I don't believe what was said, but I believed it then. Do you know what I mean? And it really sat with me, almost kind of like, I mean, I believe certain things that were being said was almost like there's a reason as to why you've been injured. So, but in my head, I'm just like, what are you talking about? There's a reason as to why I've been injured. Like, how can you tell me that there's reasoning behind why I can no longer do what I love and provide for my family? In hindsight, again, hindsight is a beautiful thing. In hindsight, I'm like, everything happens I believe everything happens for a reason. So in that, maybe if I had seen the reasonings a bit earlier on, certain things wouldn't have happened. But we can't change the past.
No,
what's happened has happened.
But you can learn from it, can't you?
But you can learn from it, exactly. So, and it's funny because I'm reading The Power of Now, and it talks about, I'm towards the end of it, and it talks about some of those things about being present in the now and not and surrendering, you know, and not holding on to certain things. It talks about, you know, if you've got certain illnesses, obviously all of these things that are in this book are subjective to what people believe. So I appreciate not everyone will believe it, but I think it was interesting for me because it talks about, you know, if you've got certain illnesses or ailments or whatever, surrendering to that and seeing maybe what lesson can be learned through that. So when you read it at first glance, you're thinking there's some people that are going through serious things, and you're asked, and this book or this individual is suggesting to surrender to that and see the lesson. That's not the first thing you're thinking about. However, looking back to the moment of you know, when I was injured, it's my feet. You know, it could have been any other part of my body, but it was my foot which limited me from moving. It was my tool to create at that point an income. And to have that literally taken away from you is profound. To be like, okay, cool, so what does this mean? I can no longer move. Do I need to slow down? Do I need to be more present in the moment? I can make these reflections now. Then I was young, I was naive, I was angry because I've gone through the first hit, I've gone through this hit, and I'm just like, what's going on? Like, I've been a good guy in my life. I've done what is right, you know, never got myself into like trouble like that. You know, I've gone to uni, I'm the eldest son, like the first grandson, etc., etc. I've done what I thought was right, and now I'm choosing to do things that. Now I'm choosing to not just do what I think is right, but to do what I enjoy. It's almost like I'm being blocked from doing that. You know, on top of that, the pressures that were kind of manifesting or that I was creating, whichever way you want to look at it. It was a lot. It was definitely a lot.
And like now, and like fast forwarding to now as well, and like you're planning to launch the Men Toolbox. Like, where are you at now? What got you to this journey? And you know, we would love to hear a bit more about the Men Toolbox.
Yeah. So what got me to the journey of creating this new business in the height of a pandemic was literally the pandemic. You know, not just that in isolation, but I would say, based on my experiences, I've learned or allowed myself to become more open and therefore tapping into my creative sides a bit more. So not just seeing dance as something that I enjoy, that is an expressive tool, but actually using that as an expression of what I'm feeling. I felt years ago it was quite separate. They was compartmentalized, you know, so it was like dancing. I love dance, you know, I've always danced, do it because I really enjoy it. But now I've got this understanding of my emotional language and my emotional capacity, it's bringing those two things together to create a language. So in terms of like, I do stuff with regards to my dance, and I'm developing some work in that aspect. But more specifically with regards to the Men Toolbox, this year, I like writing and I journal. And I used to like kind of write like spoken word sort of stuff. Never performed anything, but just for me, and I just like playing with words, I guess. And there was the Black Lives Matter movement. Obviously, there's lockdown, so that's happened in like March. There was the Black Lives Matter, and all of that uprising. There was a few things going on within the dance scene that kind of like just challenged my mind, in terms of accountability as a man in the industry. And then personally, like I'm going through court right now, so there's, with regards to like my previous relationship. So that there are four quite heavy things.
A lot going on.
Yeah, and then in between all of that, kind of just general conversations, checking in with some of my male friends, and they're going through their own stuff, and like we talk because we're more open now, we're older, so we're more open. It's like, I'm going through this, or my partner's doing this, or I like this girl, or whatever, kind of going through those things. And there was a point, I think it was when the Black Lives Matter movements really like heightened up. I was like, it's just too much, like my head hurts because I've got this going on, I've got the dance scene things happening, I've got my own personal stuff, letters from lawyers and all of this stuff, like a kind of fragmented relationship with my son, in the sense of seeing him regularly. So all of these things are going on. I'm in a new relationship, like, because that was fresh at the beginning, the end of the year last year. I'm in a new environment because of lockdown. I'm working from home instead of working from the office. All of these things, and I was like, okay, I want to get something out, but I didn't know how. So I was going to start writing a book. I probably will still do that, but just not yet, because it's a bit too much with what's saying.
It's a big undertaking, isn't it?
Yeah, and I wouldn't know where to start. So that's something that could be there, but just not yet. And yeah, that's the idea sort of started there. And then it's developed into this, like how I can be of service, or how can something be of a product be of service to other men who may want to just unlock certain aspects of themselves from grooming, to emotional, being open emotionally, to like mental well-being.
Just taking care of yourself, right?
Just taking care of, and really, really opening up that narrative, and not making it a sort of, I don't want to use the word, no, taboo is not the right word, but not making it such a thing, I think we talk about it a lot, like especially with these mental health conversations, breaking down that stigma. Yeah, exactly.
Like, and I think perhaps, not putting words into your mouth, but is it about like saying to men, just like, you can take care of yourself, you can enjoy a nice candle, you can enjoy a nice book, you can enjoy an ice cream, like it's these products exist because they're there, they're nice.
And there's such, and like, obviously, I'm developing a business, so in my research I'm realizing, there's a lot of stuff out here for men, and I have never heard of half of them. Personally, I have certain things that I go to, I've called it the Men Toolbox, because again, like I said earlier, I like playing with words. So it's like a play on words, mental, the Men Toolbox, and a toolbox identifying that, whilst it's quite a generic, a generalized concept of having a toolbox and, DIY and mechanics or whatever. But for me, the premise of it, having a toolbox, is being able to go to this box and pick out the tools that best serve you at that moment in time. And that's essentially what I'm aiming to create, is a physical box, obviously not a toolbox, but a physical box of tools, quote unquote, which will be products or services.
Wellbeing tools, right?
Yeah, wellbeing tools, that that men could enjoy, and not feel that, they can't, or I don't know where to start, and go into like 10 different shops or 10 different websites to try and figure out these products. Whereas, I will be taking time to curate what goes in the box, developing partnerships and, collaborative relationships with other services. So, I'm calling at the moment whether it will take off in terms of it, but for me it's the best way to express it, out of box experiences. So not everything can go in the box because there's a limited capacity, be between 5 to 7 products I'm looking at the moment, which will range between like grooming products specifically for men, a material, I don't want to give away too much, but like a material of some sort, like something that smells nice, something that you can use on your body, something that you can use, on your beard or whatever. Those things are a bit more specialized. So as the company develops, I'll be able to segment and be more personalized to people. Not every man has a beard, me throwing in a beard oil is not going to work if you're clean shaven, right? So it's just about understanding the audience. But the out of box experiences, I'm at the moment, I'm planning and in a lot of conversations with like organizations in terms of developing, just even signposting people. If you are struggling with dealing with mental health, signposting, the members of the Men Toolbox to an organization that has great materials to download, or there's a men's retreat going on with this organization, and because you're a member of the Men Toolbox, you get first access to book online, or you get a 15% discount off the full price. Those are the kind of things that I'm trying to facilitate, and essentially trying to be, as well as the product-based service, try and be a one-stop shop, or like a pass-through for other for men to feel like, okay, cool, the Men Toolbox gives me this, but they also are connected with XYZ, and I've never heard about them and may never have heard about them had I not been a member of the Men Toolbox. So let me try this out, because there's just so much out there.
And I think like perhaps quite a fun take on the question, which we always ask, because we often talk about what are the tools, what kind of mental health tools, mental well-being tools and tips have helped you along your way. And you mentioned things like journaling, I want to put that in terms of the Men Toolbox as well. Like, what is your Men Toolbox? If you were to deliver that first box to yourself, what would be in it?
Okay. A journal. 100%. Why? Because for me, I found that expressing myself I've always liked words, so expressing myself in written form at a time where my emotional voice was not present, I found that writing things out was much clearer and helped me to process what I'm thinking. Sometimes I've written things and not looked back. I wrote like when I used to live abroad as well, in the midst of everything else going on, and I wrote something when I was at the airport. A lot of stuff happened and I was leaving, and I've reflected on it a few times. When I was writing, like free writing, which is literally you're just writing, you're not being too conscious about what you're writing, you're just writing from the heart. And I did that, and there was so much like pent up frustration, anger, etc. But then when I read it back, it was like, that's so deep, because I have literally shut that box for that feeling, and I didn't open it. And then I read it back and I was like, wow, that's how, in that moment, in that now, that's how I was feeling. So then, depending on how comfortable you are, but at the end of the day, they're your words. So you learn to become comfortable. So unpacking those things and journaling, and I have my moments. I think with tools, it's important to understand that like not everything's going to stick. You have your moments, and that's the whole thing about the toolbox. Sometimes a particular tool works for that particular moment and that particular moment only. So for me, journaling, I started, I don't know when I started journaling. I mean, even back to like the sort of abortion moment, I wrote in a diary, so that was, I guess, the beginnings of it. But I didn't realize how therapeutic and how helpful it was maybe until more recently.
Okay,
Yeah,
so journal number
journal.
one,
Yeah,
6 more items. What are they?
yeah, something that smells nice and sort of
Okay.
heightens the senses. You know, like I've got a doTERRA, was it doTERRA sort of humidifier sort of thing where I can put
Mhm.
oils in. So
Okay,
I
yeah.
mean that's really expensive, so I don't know if people be getting that in in a box, but
But some form of something
some
to
sort of
smell.
smelling, whether that's an essential oil, a candle,
Yeah.
incense. I really like incense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, something that's inspirational,
Okay.
whether that be a book, whether that be something small, whether that be a magazine, whether that be,
But
you
hold
know,
on, this is your box. What magazine? What book?
okay, so for sure, some sort of an affirmation,
Okay.
something that can be quite inspiring that I can read.
Okay.
Um, I wouldn't say self-help. I don't really like that
Yeah.
term, but definitely, a card of some sort with a really inspirational message that I can look at
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
daily,
Yeah.
and then a book that can challenge my perspective on
Mhm.
how I may be thinking.
Yeah,
For sure.
fascinating. Okay, and
Yeah,
and okay, and what book would it be? The Power of Now?
yeah. The Power of Now. I'm really loving that. I've got the next book in the series. I can't remember what it's called, but it's got an orange cover. But
Mhm.
anyway, I've got that. So yeah, I like those books. The Alchemist. I've read that.
Yeah.
How to, was it Make Your Bed, which is a very very small book, and it's written by like a soldier,
Mhm.
and he goes through sort of like just like the mental state of him when he was in the army and
Mm.
why it's important to make your bed. Like it sounds quite simple, but when you read it, it's really cool.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely like the Power of Now. I'm loving
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Or anything similar to that. Definitely, we need to be in the box. How
Okay.
many? How many have I got?
I think you're up to. I think you're up to. Well, it depends if we're classing the affirmations and the book together. But let's say we're not. You've got
Yes,
another 3 left.
another three. Okay. Body stuff. So something for a great body wash,
Yeah.
or yeah, a great body wash or
Something
bath.
to awaken the
Yeah,
senses.
yeah, exactly something like
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
I like herbal tea. I've got a herbal tea right now.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so some.
So
Okay, what kind of tea? What for you personally?
for me, chamomile,
Nice.
because I tend to get like the anxiety and the stress,
Yeah,
so that
yeah, yeah,
helps
yeah.
to calm
Okay.
that calm me down.
Yeah. So something
Um,
that's no caffeine.
yeah, yeah. And then I'm trying to grow my beard. So a beard oil that works for me.
Yeah. Okay.
I've tried various different things, and they don't seem to be working because my beard's still the same length. So even in lockdown with barbers being shut.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say for like the first box,
Yeah.
definitely I think it's hitting all the points for me. There's a lot, there's a lot more aspects to me. But I feel for like the first box, I'll be really like excited to
Yeah.
receive that. I'd be like,
Yeah.
this is cool. I want to see what else,
Yeah.
what else I could receive. But definitely book, affirmation card, or a
Yeah.
note with an affirmation on,
Yeah.
something smelling really nice,
Mm.
body relaxing, tea, and beard.
And I think it's a really nice thing to receive something physical which you have paid for, where you're like,
Yeah,
I'm investing in myself.
yeah,
And I'm
definitely.
receiving these things, and there might be some stuff which, yeah, it's personalized to me. I know exactly what I've kind of semi-asked for. I've got a beard, or I like various smells, or I like tea or coffee, whatever it is. But there's an element of surprise in there at the same time, isn't there?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's I've never heard of any of this stuff. I'm going to give it a go. So I
Yeah,
think it's really interesting. Trying all of those are out of box experiences in themselves, aren't they? Like
yeah,
they're pushing your boundaries, they're pushing your limits. You're forced to try things that you
yeah,
haven't tried before and open your eyes to some new experiences.
yeah, exactly. And I guess you're kind of allowing yourself to be in a position that you may not even do. How often do we sit down and drink a tea or whatever, and maybe read a book?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
often do we light a candle?
yeah,
Pardon me, light a candle and relax in the bath? How often do we make our home environment smell nice with
yeah,
something other than air freshener?
yeah, yeah,
And set a mood. And how do we awaken certain senses or
yeah,
areas of our life, whether that be mental or smell or whatever the case may be. So
and I think it's important, like when you're trying these different tools and tips, they might be physical products that you're paying for. They might be free things like going for a walk or calling a friend, calling your mum, or whatever it is. Like, it's important to understand and recognize the things that work for you, because the things that work for me won't be the things that work for you, Michael.
Exactly.
Because we're different people, we've gone through different experiences. But I think to get to a point where we all have our own men toolboxes and women's toolboxes at the same time, human toolboxes, so that we can navigate difficult life transitions and difficult situations, traumatic events with those. It's important that, for me, I look at almost like a mental war chest where you've got the tools, you've got the kind of the armory to kind of survive and to get through some difficult things. And if things are going, if you are going through a particularly bad time, you know what to draw on to be able to kind of fight.
Exactly. And I said that to someone. I think I was speaking with one of my close friends. No, I think it was my partner, and it was talking about tools, right, and different go-to things. And I said, it's at the times when things are okay where you should be developing what your
exactly
your tools are, because at that moment of trials and tribulations, you can be like, I know meditation works for me.
It's a safe space, isn't it?
Exactly. I know journaling works for me. Like I did the 30-day Deepak Chopra meditation thing. Someone sent it to me on WhatsApp. It was extremely timely, based on where I was at that particular time in lockdown. I was like, let's go, let's do this. And it uncovered so much, from that. I bought myself a meditation beanbag thing. I've got like some crystal affirmation cards. I had them for a long time, but I just never used them. And I just kind of started tapping into the area. I've kind of fallen off of that now, but I feel that different tool. I've still got it, but there's different tools that I'm realizing now. I'm speaking a lot more to friends and family and my partner. I'm writing a lot more. I'm researching in the development of my business, and I'm unpacking things that I'm realizing in all of this for myself. So there are different tools that are being used for this particular moment. And then something may happen. I don't want to say something may happen, but there may be a point in my life at another time where I'm very heavily back into the meditation, but I know what that space is like. And I think that's very important too. If you 100%. Don't explore, you can't discover, and you won't know.
It's about exploring, it's about experimenting, it's finding what works best for you. It's not signing up to something where they go, this will fix you. This is the only way to do it. That's not the way that life works.
It's not the way that life works. And that's kind of what, I envision the Men Toolbox being able to be, is it's a discovery box. People to discover them, if they can discover themselves, see what they like, see what they don't like, and if it's like, okay, I really like this body cream, and I really like incense. I've never burnt incense before. Some people, for me, I grew up in a house with incense always being burnt. Some people don't really know. They know what it is, but they've never used it and seen the benefits of it.
Just get it out, burn it. If you don't like it, that's fine. But if you do like it, wow, that's something else you can use, right?
Exactly. So I just think it's
good on
really
you,
cool.
Yeah. Well, Michael, honestly, we wish you well in the Men Toolbox. We're very excited for your pre-launch, which I believe is in end of January.
Yes.
And then for the full launch, when are we waiting for that?
March. So essentially, there'll be a pre-launch at the end of January, just after the Christmas period, and letting people kind of settle and do what they got to do. And obviously, I'm still developing a lot of things behind the scenes. And as we're winding down to Christmas, it becomes a bit more challenging to do so. So I thought end of January is a good time for pre-launch. There'll be a public pre-launch, and people can essentially pre-order the box ready to be delivered in March. So they'll receive the first box in March, and then we'll just take it from there.
Well, we wish you well in that.
Thank you. And
honestly, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Being so open, being so honest. And especially talking, like you said, talking about some very difficult issues from a male perspective, from abortion, your experiences there, like that is, I'm really glad that you spoke about that, and really hope that people listening can, who have been through a similar situation can take, can take comfort that there are other people who are going through similar things, and the fact that we will all get through that.
Yeah, we will. It's life lessons. It's a journey, and everyone's path is different and things happen. But I feel that if we can be present in the moment and be conscious about certain things that are taking place, as hard as it may be, we can see lessons in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just hope that anyone that has been listening, feels, can kind of resonate maybe, or have a better understanding or perspective. And yeah,
and also, and if you want to get in contact with Michael once we've launched, we'll be linking you up to the Men Toolbox itself, so you'll be able to get in contact with him directly. And just wanted to say as well, thank you, Michael, but also thank you to everyone listening. You can subscribe to us on most major podcast platforms: YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Just search for Psychic Community or Psychic Stories and we'll pop up. And please do give us a rating if you like the show. Michael, thank you so much again.
Thank you.